Hello, and welcome to The Scaling Game. This is a podcast where we discuss how we've helped direct response advertisers find and fix what's preventing them from scaling their business. I'm Sammy Afrin. I'm the head of creative strategy at Deciphered. Alongside me in this episode and every other, you will see John Belcher. He's the founder of Deciphered. Collectively, over the last 10 years, John and I have managed almost $200 million in ad spend across 21 ad networks, helping our clients scale their businesses with paid traffic. Our secret to success has been our proprietary process that helps us do two things: find and fix what's preventing our clients from scaling their business. Our process is incredibly simple. It is math-based. It has nothing to do with algorithms, pixels, the Zuck, none of it. And it has helped us deliver wins in every industry, vertical, funnel type, business type, and year that we have tried it in. And 2024 has been our biggest year yet. We decided it's finally time to shine some light on this process. We believe in it so much that we have sat down to record hours of podcasts talking about how to play the scaling game. And that journey starts here in episode 1. Episode 1 is all about laying out the rules of the game. In this episode, you will hear us talk about the definition of scale that we use day in and day out, the 3 laws of paid traffic, as well as the overall philosophy of the scaling game, just to make sure that we're all using the same lingo and working from the same rule book as we dive into the case studies that will follow. So without further ado, here is the scaling game. Hello, John. How are you doing today?
Great. Let's do this.
All right. We're jumping right into it. We got to get some definitions out of the way so that we can make sure we're playing this game as appropriately as possible. So when we talk about the scaling game, we talk about how we do things at Deciphered. Let's talk about our definition of scale, because we've realized it's misunderstood and overused.
Yeah, so in the paid traffic industry, when people talk about scaling a campaign, they're really just talking about increasing ad budget. That's what we found. And so a lot of people say is we cannot scale profitably. That is actually an oxymoron. So increasing spend is 50% of the definition. But scaling a business is increasing your revenue while maintaining or improving your profitability. So in paid traffic terms, we want to be able to increase our ad spend, but we have to be able to maintain our CPAs, our cost to acquire a customer. And what's important about that is if we can maintain our CPA and our ROAS, we're going to get the same profit margin per customer. And then if we have more ad spend, we're just multiplying that by the volume, right?
Right, by the number of customers.
Spread times our volume, so our profit gets bigger. This is the goal of the scaling game, is to be able to do this.
Yes. Problem is, we have learned that scaling is not a natural thing. And that has to do with the 3 laws of paid traffic. We call them rules here, but I Freudian slip. I called them laws because we believe in them so strongly that I think that they very well may be. So let's move right into rule number 1. As spend increases, your CPA increases. I'm going to write it out here. John, talk us through it.
Yeah, so as we just showed in the last one, our goal is spend to go like this and CPA to go like this, right? So that's why we have this red line down here at the bottom. The problem with this is the way paid traffic works, as you increase your spend, your CPAs are going to increase along with it. So our goal is the opposite of reality. And so what we have to do is learn how to fight against this goal. But before we talk about that, we have to talk about why this dynamic exists, right? And so that's what we'll kind of get into here. We call it the reverse economies of scale.
Yeah, I mean, it's straightforward. It's just basically paid traffic. You're probably better to explain this more concisely than me, John, but effectively paid traffic operates like the opposite of every other business. Things get more expensive the more you do it. And that has, again, that's the idea of this reverse economy of scale. So talk us through it, kind of your breakdown.
So if you're buying inventory, right, you buy 100 units, you pay X dollars per unit, and then you go back and reorder 1,000 or 10,000, your cost per unit goes down.
Right.
Paid traffic works the exact opposite. The smaller you buy, the better pricing you get. And then when you try to increase, it gets more expensive. So the reason for that is because it's all about relevance. Ad networks want to prioritize serving the most relevant content to their users. Social networks, native display, search, all of those, it's about relevance. And you often see this in platforms because you get quality score, which is highly determined on relevance.
Right.
What happens is one of 2 things take place. Your costs are going to increase as you scale, and that's because your relevance decreases. Okay? And there's 2 reasons that takes place. A, your ads, as you increase your ad spend, are going to get served more frequently to the same users. That happens a lot if you're targeting a small audience. You're just going to you're start seeing your frequency get really, really high, and your CPAs are going to go up. Or if you're in a bigger market, we advertise in some really big markets. We're not necessarily seeing our frequency go up, but our ads are starting to get served to people who are find the ads less and less relevant. And the best way to explain this is if you think about on Facebook, lookalike audiences, right? So if you have a set of customers and you have a 1% lookalike audience, they're going to have a lot of things in common with your existing customer base. But as you start to get to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 10%, they share fewer things in common, which means the ads are highly likely going to be less relevant to them.
Right.
And because they're less relevant, your click-through rates are lower, your costs are higher, et cetera. Now, what's interesting about this is this doesn't necessarily show up in CPMs or CPCs or whatever. It shows up when you're increasing spend in whatever action you're optimizing for. So it overall impacts your CPA no matter what, but this is kind of that part's like, we're not going to tell you your CPMs are going to go up, your CPCs are going to go up, whatever. The cost of what you're optimizing for is going to go up as you increase your spend.
So if we are hypothetically trying to scale our business, and we know that as we increase our spend, our CPAs are going to increase due to this reverse economies of scale, what can we do about it? And that kind of takes us to rule number 2, which is in order to scale, you must lower your CPAs. It's the only way. You have to lower your CPAs.
Yeah, so this is the piece that we come back to every single time we hit a scaling plateau is if we've set a maximum allowable CPA, so I'll just use it from a client basis. We come in, they say we can afford $80 to pay $80 per customer. Cool. What most companies have done is they've ramped up all of their campaigns to the point that they're at $80. And what they want is a magic trick that's going to magically allow them to be able to spend more while maintaining that CPA. That doesn't happen. Right. There's no media buying hacks. There's no audience. There's no AI tools that make those things take place. And even if they do, it's super short-lived, right? The way that you allow yourself to continue to scale is by dropping your CPA with your existing traffic. So you're making an improvement somewhere in your process that reduces your CPA. This creates what we call room in the math that you now can afford to go increase your ad budgets, because when you spend more, your CPAs are going to go back up and you're going to hit that maximum allowable again, right?
Right. So, okay, it sounds like a pretty simple game, right? Like I know that as I increase my ad spend, my CPAs are going to increase due to the reverse economies of scale as it correlates to relevance on these ad networks, right? In order to scale my business and beat out the game of relevance, I have to lower my CPAs. I have to figure out different ways to lower my CPAs, which kind of now leads us, that sounds easy. Okay, I got to lower my CPA. But as we've learned through a long time of doing this, it's not always so straightforward, which leads us kind of into rule number 3, and how we've managed to keep ourselves from just getting flat out defeated sometimes is that we've realized that scale happens in phases. And it's not the hockey stick we've been showed.
No, it's really a series of plateaus. And what most people who come to us that are clients is they come to us frustrated because they're in a plateau. And I get it, right? You and I have been doing this for a long time. We used to feel the exact same way. Hitting a plateau is actually a good thing because it means that you've achieved like that next level in paid traffic. You've leveled up. Right. Yeah. The problem that people have, though, is they go back and they keep trying to use the same things that got them here, so it took them from one level to the next, and they stop working. There's points of diminishing returns. So it's like, hey, we used to make a bunch of ads and we were able to scale up, but now the results, like, we're just not getting as much out of it. What do we do next, right? And so what's important about this, we call this kind of our scaling staircase. This is what scale looks like. Is when you're in these plateaus, this is where the game is won, is in these plateaus. You have to figure out what is our next area of leverage that can improve our CPAs so we can afford to go scale again, right? That's what's really important here, is what's the best next step that's going to create room in the math so we can go scale up what we're doing.
Right. And we recognize that how is the most challenging part. And that's exactly why we put this podcast together. So after this episode, all the subsequent episodes are going to be case studies of us doing exactly what we just talked about, right? Looking at our client's business. If you can scroll down there, John, I'm going to introduce them now to we call these our scaling calculators, our scaling equations. You're going to see this in every episode. And this is effectively what we call progression rates. This is going to be our client's funnels broken out into the various steps within their funnel, and the progression rate from one step to the next, to the next, to the next. This where, why, how process, John, it's your baby, so I'm going to let you talk about it. But this very simple where, why, how process is exactly what we do every single time in order to deliver the wins that we're going to tell you all about for our clients. So,
yeah. So once again, we hit a scaling plateau. A lot of people say, how do we improve our CPA? That's the first question they ask. We've found that is the wrong question to ask. We need to go through and break out the math in the sales process, starting with the ad and ending with the ultimate conversion, and then be able to understand the costs and the progression rates at every step. Because we plug this information now into mathematical models, but we'll show you over the course of time how this process is improved. You have to find your point of leverage that has the opportunity to lower your CPAs the most. So the where question is, inside this process, where is our biggest point of leverage that we can focus on to improve and create room in the math, right? That's step one. Okay, we found that on this one, click to call rate is our problem, right? How do we improve that? No. Before we get to how, we need to talk about why. And this is something that Sammy and I have a background in sales. This is something that I think is really unique about our perspective is we don't look at this as marketers or business owners. We look at this as salespeople, and we'll walk through the process where we basically look at everything that's in front of this particular event that is our leak in the process. And we'll ask ourselves, why are we seeing the math break down where we are? And that will help us develop hypotheses that we can then go create experiments to see which of our hypotheses actually address the issue that's preventing users from moving forward in the process, and it's causing our CPAs to go up, right?
Yeah.
So once we have where it's breaking and we have an understanding, we have hypotheses as to why it's breaking, now we can develop experiments that we can go through and test to figure out how do we actually improve that math.
Yeah. And our goal through this pod series and whatever episodes come after the case studies is to help you guys master that translation process from why to how. So you'll be introduced in every case study to the initial kind of funnel stats that we started with in the client. And then the subsequent, we'll have another calculator of the solved equation, if you will. And that's going to break out. John, I think I have it down below there if you want to. Yeah. And then we're going to discuss after the change that we're going to talk you through our scientific process, if you will. And then after the change, we will roll out real data, real numbers, exactly what happened. And we always break those wins out into these three categories. You're going to see it as profitability, algorithm, and then diversification. John, give a little more color here. I'll let you also cover kind of the scaling staircase we talked about.
So we talk about every time we create a win for a business, we're looking for three benefits. Number one is improving profitability. And what's important about that is you can either make the choice to pocket that if your business needs more profitability, or you can reinvest it in volume because you want to scale your business. Now that we've improved profitability, we can afford to go get more volume, right? So number one is profitability. Number two is looking at the algorithm. One of the benefits is when we improve conversion rates, we are going to see a larger amount of conversion event data sent back to the ad platform for the same amount of ad spend. And that's really important because machine learning needs more data to continue to improve well. So our benchmark, we're trying to basically get to the point where we can send 50 conversions per ad set per day. So machine learning can operate at its best possible output to be able to send traffic. And then the final piece is diversification. There comes a point in time where we can only improve ads and funnels and those things so much. So what we really have to start doing is we look at message stacking. So how do we create more messages that convert? How do we apply it to more SKUs? And then how do we diversify across more ad platforms? Those are really the three things that we look to accomplish.
And we have examples of every one of those things. Clients that have chosen all the options to reinvest, to go for volume. They hit the algorithmic marks, the 50 conversions a day they didn't. We talk about SKU diversification. Guys, we really tried to set a lineup up that guys would answer all the questions possible. So as you finish this episode and look forward into the next ones, you're going to notice that our episodes are laid out by funnel type and verticals, maybe a good way to put it, John. And then at the end of every episode, we're going to walk you again through that entire funnel type. And then you're going to be introduced to this image here. You'll see it a lot. We call it our scaling staircase. And this is basically, John, I guess, a map of our scaling wins with our given clients. Maybe that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, so it's having the discussion about where did they start and what were the different activities that got them to that next level. And so I think what's really important for you to take away from this is we use the same tools across clients, but the order in which they're used changes based off what the math tells us the opportunity is, right? And so that's what's really important is you're going to see we went from here to here, but we started with this and then we moved to this and then we did this and then we did this, right? And I think that's really important to being able to visualize what the process of scaling looks like. It's not a cut and paste, do this every time. This company's called Deciphered because we help you decipher the math in your funnel to figure out, like to find and fix what's preventing you from scaling. That's what this process is going to show.
That's what it's all about. And we hope to empower you to recognize that your solutions to all the problems that are currently plaguing your paid traffic efforts within your business exist within the math in your business. Like John said, you just have to be able to collect that data, decipher it, and turn it into wins. And again, we hope to show you how to do exactly that in the subsequent episodes. So John, if you have anything to add, now's your chance. Speak now.
Nope, let's do it.
All right, guys, we will see you in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much for watching The Scaling Game. John and I know that time is your most valuable currency, so we do not take your attention lightly. If you could do us a solid and drop a comment below, letting us know what you loved, what you hated, whatever it is, leave the comment so that we can read that comment and then go and use it to inform our future content. We appreciate that as well. If you have interest in working with the team at Deciphered, you can head on over to deciphered.com. That's Deciphered with a Y. Fill out the lead form, and then we will reach out to you to schedule a feasibility assessment. Outside of that, guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the next one.